Guys, I watched Brock Lawley's latest video the other day, and I was, I've got to respond to it. Even though I haven't really got time, I've had to make time to respond to it because of the nature of what his video is about. He calls it, Brock's video is called Darwinian Racism, a Scientific Grounding, and I just cannot let this one lie. The minor point, this isn't the point I want to make, but I just want to get this out the way. Brock casts some serious aspersions on the character of Charles Darwin. Does he? Yes, he does. He says that he's sexist and racist and whatever else. Doesn't matter if he fucks pigs as far as I'm concerned. It's an irrelevance, Brock. You know, Isaac Newton spent way too much time studying alchemy, trying to turn base metals into gold. Does that cast any doubt on his equations of motion, on his work on gravity, his equations for gravity, his theory of gravity, on his work on differential calculus, on his work on optics, on his telescope design? I don't think it does it? Those things stand aside from anything else he did. Same with Charles Darwin. Whatever his personal viewpoints, irrelevant. Doesn't make any difference to whether the modern evolutionary synthesis is right or wrong. So let's just forget about that and let's move on with the points that you make, which is that evolution leads inexorably to racism. Let's see what Brock has to say.
So it seems to me that a belief in this evolutionary approach to man's origin comes with some extremely racist implications. If human qualities and behavior patterns have been fashioned by natural selection, the existence of inequalities between races, social classes, and sexes may be quite natural. It is more than natural for social animals to establish hierarchies of dominance and submission. So it seems more than fair to say that Darwin's acceptance of these hierarchies in human societies led to and propagated racial prejudices. There's no other way to cut this cake, boys and girls. What we find here is a scientific grounding for racism.
Oh, well, you know, I do like a nice slice of cake, me. So this is what I've done. I've brought us a cake along. It's a common sense cake, iced with the fucking blindingly obvious. And I've bought you a little plate and a fork, Brock. So I'll give these to you there, and I'll cut you a little slice. Do you want a big slice to begin with, or just a little slice? Maybe we'll just start off with a little slice and see how we get on, shall we? You know, taste the blindingly obvious first off, Brock, because, you know, what you're saying to everybody here is that if evolution is true, then maybe there are differences between races, and then that gives us an excuse to be racist, doesn't it? But the blindingly obvious is we are here in the here and now, and things are as they are, whether creationism is true or whether evolution is true. And if there are differences between the races, then there are differences between the races. If there aren't differences between the races, then there aren't differences between the races. And that's irrespective of whether your creationism is true, evolution is true, or there's some third way, some other creation myth or whatever. We've got to deal with it, haven't we? So you're in the same boat, my friend. You're in exactly the same boat. You've still got to deal with these things because it's going to be a biological fact one way or t'other. And while we're still on the subject of boats, Brock, and keep eating your cake and perhaps enjoy the marzipan of oversight while I'm talking, but your position is actually an evolutionary position as well, isn't it? Because you believe that there was Noah and the flood, what, about 4,000 years ago, something like that, and since then, whatever variation we've attained, has took place as some part of turbocharged human evolution, you know. We both have to pack in the same amount of evolution to get to the different races, don't we? But I do it in 50,000 years, you do it in about 4,000 years. But we're still talking about the same, exactly the same amount of evolution. So that makes your position even closer to mine, doesn't it? But leave it to one side, these differences that we have, Brock. Let's examine, are there actually racial differences? Because this is the key issue, isn't it? We're now in the filling of the cake, Brock, and it's a fruity filling, is it not? You know, I'm going to put a link up here, and it's a link to an article in a magazine called Peak Performance. It's a sporting magazine, and it deals with differences. Is race an issue in sport? And it looks at East Africans who dominate distance running and are completely crap at sprinting, and West Africans who dominate sprinting and are absolutely abysmal. They don't have a single elite distance runner, or they didn't 6 years ago or whenever this article was made. I don't know if things have altered then. It's an interesting article. If you want to comment on it, read the fucking article first. That's all I'm going to say. Okay? But there are differences between people. We know Maasai warriors are taller than pygmies. So is it inconceivable that there are mental differences between different groups around the world? Well, it would seem strange if there weren't, wouldn't it? If 50,000 years of evolution had gone by, or 4,000 years of your turbocharged evolution had gone by, and nothing had changed. It would seem strange. So should we do as you suggest we do, and start acting as racists on the back of it? I'm going to give you a different example, Brock. I'm going to make up an example. I'm going to give you two groups, A and B. They both consist of people aged from 18 to 80, and there is 100,000 people in each group. Now I'm going to tell you two facts about each group. In Group A, the average age is 40. In Group B, the average age is 38. That's a statistically significant difference. It's a small difference, but because of the numbers in the group, it's a statistically significant difference. Now then, Brock, how about this for an idea? Everybody in Group A, we're going to issue with a walking stick on the grounds that their average age is slightly older. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't, does it? Because that means we're issuing walking sticks to people who are 18 years old. And there's 80-year-olds in Group B who aren't getting a walking stick. It would make a lot more sense if we issued the walking sticks to those over 70 in each group, wouldn't it? Not just go along the lines of which group had the slightly different, the slightly higher average age. If you're going to start differentiating between different groups, it makes no sense if the difference between the groups is so much less than the difference within the groups. And this is the issue, Brock, because let's say there are differences, statistically speaking, between different races. Those differences are going to be tiny compared to the differences between individuals. Every race has individuals who are very, very stunningly intelligent, and has individuals who are stunningly stupid. You know, me and you, Brock, we're both Northern European Caucasians, and yet you talk a load of shit, and I make a lot of sense. You see the variation at work there. But let's step back. Let's leave my cake to one side. Put the plate down, but if you could pass it back to me, that would be lovely. Right? Let's have a look at your cake, because I've got a problem with your cake. And the problem with your cake is that you are hanging the concept of equality on all races being indiscernible from one another. And that's a very, very dangerous thing to do, because what it means is, it means that if they're not discernible from one another, then that gives you grounds to be racist. Can you not see the danger in that, Brock? What it means is that your worldview is only ever one biological discovery away from legitimising racism. Back to Brock.
But it also provides support and intellectual shelter for those who think the existing distribution of wealth and power is a natural thing. After all, might makes right.
Well, I can certainly understand you thinking that from a Christian perspective, because that's what Christians always say about God. He's got the might and that gives him the right. But from an evolutionary perspective, that doesn't make any sense. We know the roots of our morality. Here's a video on it if you're not sure, Brock. I want to leave you with a quote, Brock. A quote from Steven Pinker. So could discoveries in biology turn out to justify racism and sexism? Absolutely not. The case against bigotry is not a factual claim that humans are biologically indistinguishable. It is a moral stance that condemns judging an individual according to the average traits of certain groups to which the individual belongs. Brock, next time you go into the bank, I suggest you take that one with you.